Welcome everyone. I'm Linda Cry with Action Coach XL Edge, and today you are joining us with our Business Spotlight series, and we're going to meet and hear from Troy Hart with the Hart Family Hotels. So thank you, Troy, for spending some time with us today.
Thank you, Linda.
Well, let's just get started by hearing a bit about you, who you are, what your business is, maybe how long you've been in business and how you got started.
Yeah. Well, I'm the CEO of Hart Family Hotels. We also have two sister companies that are Braveheart Development and Hart Family Coffee. I have spent 27 years developing and operating hotels. My family has a 62-year history of doing the same. So my grandfather, Jack Phillips, was kind of the first entrepreneur in our family. And he was the father-in-law of my dad, Murray Hart. And my dad mentored and taught me, and I grew up in the hotel business. So when I was a young kid, if you wanted to see dad, you jumped on your bike and you drove a mile and a half down to the hotel to see him. So we'd play catch in the parking lot, in between phone calls. And so I was immersed in business, and the way he handled business was business and life just mixed together. So he taught us to whistle while you work. So you're going to work a lot in your life. You may as well find a way to make it fun. So it really had a dramatic impact on my life once I learned that not everybody understands that you can enjoy working. And instead of letting it be, something that you're trying to avoid and get out of, to lean into it, embrace it, and build a better life.
Beautiful. There's great wisdom in that. And Troy, I think you're spot on. When I meet a lot of business owners and business leaders, and it's like the grind, the daily grind, and the spirit or the joy in their work, and they've lost the meaning and purpose somehow. So what do you think? You said playing catch in the parking lot between calls. What does that work-life integration look like for you? How have you learned from that and maybe applied in your world?
Well, I think the first thing is setting the expectation with your family that what we do is a little bit different than what everybody else does. We don't have a 9 to 5. We are on call for our businesses 24/7. And especially in the hotel business where you're actually open 24/7, 365, you never know when there's going to be an employee problem, a customer problem, a problem with a building. So you just have to be ready to handle those things when they happen. The trade-off is when things are going well and you're successful, you have more say in your time. But I think that's kind of how I've learned to get comfortable with it, is just making sure my family knows that there are months when dad's around quite a bit and there are months when he's on the road a lot. And as long as they understand it and can see, number one, the passion and how happy working makes me. And number two, just be a role model for them, to show them that in the United States of America, you don't get ahead on 40 hours a week. I wish you did. I think we all wish you did, but that's just not true. So even if you work a 40-hour week job, you better be prepared to invest in yourself outside of that 40-hour work week so that you can grow your knowledge base and improve your skill set.
Yeah, beautiful. And time mastery, we call it, is really self-mastery, and to your point, setting expectations. And so that idea now of third generation going into family-owned businesses, there an interest that you might see a fourth generation? And if so, how are you preparing that, or what does that next generation of leadership look like for you?
Yeah, well, I've told all my kids that they need to go out and work in some other field or whatever they're passionate about until at least the age of 30. And then at age 30, if they decide that coming to learn in the family business is something they'd like to do, then they have that opportunity. I've seen people go into family businesses just because it was the family business, and they ended up with some miserable lives. And so I don't want that for my kids. Money should not decide what you do. You got to find something you're passionate about. So I would almost prefer that they go out and find something else to do. Because a family business can be difficult. The roles that we all have, there can be some conflict there. One day you've got the dad hat on, the next day you got the boss hat on. So if one of them is passionate about it, then I'm definitely gonna have an open door for that.
Beautiful, beautiful. So let's go to role clarification. So your role as a CEO, and then you have a team of others. You have a chief operating officer and others. How many people are in your organization?
Oh, we've got about 120 in the hotel business. We've got 250 in our coffee business. We are a franchisee for Scooters Coffee drive-throughs in the state of Wisconsin and Aberdeen, South Dakota. And then we also are a franchisee for Hawaiian Bros in the state of Iowa, and we have about 45 people at that location. That business is expanding, and in some time we'll probably have 500 people in that business, but we're kind of early innings of that growth.
Beautiful. Well, I have to admit, this morning I stopped and got a Scooters coffee before I went to my first training session that I had. So thank you very much. You're in our
Beautiful.
backyard and we love it.
Yes.
Love it.
Thank you.
And I'm all about, right, doing business with the mid-sized and small businesses, especially as they're growing. You know, that's what America's built on.
You
Because
bet.
you're the type of organization that gives back to the communities in which you work and live and play. And you know, that's what makes America great for sure. So let's talk about that, right? So you've seen massive growth. What would you attribute that massive growth to? Developing team is part of it. Maybe talk about that, or what else do you think was key for your growth?
Well, the first thing is having great teammates. You know, if you're not successful in the first thing, you can't move on to the next thing. And once you move on to the next thing, you have to be able to focus and learn that business, which takes away from your focus on the first business. So it's important that the people that you've moved into leadership positions are ready to handle that responsibility. And that's an ongoing thing. You always have to, the world changes, business changes. So you may have had the hotel business down pat a decade ago, and it looks very different today. So that's part of the growth. But the other part is we use investor partners. So we create fractional ownership in all of our businesses, and investors can reach out to us through LinkedIn or other platforms and see what opportunities we have. And when you build a hotel like the one we just opened in Milwaukee, it's $16 million project. So I don't have that kind of money to do something like that by myself. So you find other people that want to invest in real estate, want the returns that private real estate can provide, and you just network with them and you build trust. And then at some point you form LLC groups, and we might have as little as 5 owners or as many as 25 on a given project. So that's how the growth comes together. It's stacking our cash together to do special projects together, and it's really cool to be able to take a bare piece of dirt and build a building, $16 million building, and then to see people have events there and create memories there, whether it be weddings or someone that's going for an interview for a first job. My son's got some of that coming up, so it's exciting to see people going through their life cycle and see how they use your hotel to better their life along the way.
Love that. So you're spreading the risk a bit and also spreading the reward when it works
Yep.
as you develop those relationships. How do you then, as you talk about the investment model, that's one thing. Investing in your team of people, what do you look for on either in investment partners or in team members? Is there something that you look for specifically?
Well, yeah, we want people that are hungry. We want people that are humble and teachable. Um, I think that those two pieces are what is most critical. I also like to see people that smile, that are happy. When you're in service businesses like we are, you got to love people. And I've been shocked at times to find, different people that I've mentored, and I've asked them about how do they like it here, and they'll say things like, "Well, I'm not a people person." I'm like, "Well, you're in the wrong business then. We're in the service business. We got to love people." And what I learned growing up in the hotel business, I used to walk through the parking lot and I used to try to see what all the different license plates look like. And then our customers would kind of get to know you, and they know your name. They knew I was the owner's son, and you just learn about them and learn about their job and what it was. And I was just curious. Where are all these people coming from? What do they do? Where do they live? And as a hotelier, if you're in the hotel business, if you just really embrace meeting new people every day and how fun it can be, you don't need reality TV. You're living reality in your hotel, and that's the part to me that if you learn how to really enjoy what you're doing, oh man, you can have so much fun, and then they give you a paycheck at the end of the week too. So
Right? There's reward in it. Yeah.
yep,
And sometimes we make it too hard. Sometimes we make business too hard.
right.
I like to talk about it's about people and process. and you got good people want to do good things, that sometimes when things go bump in the night, there's an underlying process that's outdated or fractured or broken or doesn't exist. So talk a little bit about that. Where do the systems or the process come into supporting the people in your different establishments?
Oh, sure. Well, the foundational one is the training, right? To have the proper training systems. And so people aren't taught customer service in their home. Unfortunately, we don't teach it in the school system. I'd like to see more of our teaching in our school system be around practical skills that people can actually use in their life. A lot of, in my mind, a lot of the things like personal finance, it's kind of a, you can take the class, but you don't have to. It's an optional class. It should be priority number one. Customer service should be priority number one. Everybody should do a customer service job at some point in their life. It makes you a better customer and a better consumer if you've been on the other side of the counter. And I can tell you, post pandemic, our world sometimes is not quite as friendly as it used to be. And part of what we're trying to do in the coffee business, Scooters Coffee, at Hawaiian Bros, in our hotels, is spreading that kindness, spreading that positivity, and help lifting people up. And I can tell you so many examples in my career when some customer came to the front desk in a huff at the end of a tough day, maybe they were even impolite or even swore at us. And you give them the key, you send them to your room, and then the next day they come back and they're like, I really screwed up last night. I shouldn't have talked to you that way. And you gotta give grace. I mean, this world is difficult. You just don't know what people are going through. And sometimes being that sounding board for somebody and just being there for them, you create that bond where maybe a customer started out not thinking so highly of you and your business. And by the end of the stay, they're like, I will never stay anywhere else but with you. And that's an honor to earn somebody's business that way. So it's something that I'm really proud of when we do it well. And fortunately, we've got a lot of great people at Hart Family Hotels, at Scooters Coffee, at Hawaiian Bros, that do the same thing, that are, their intent is to spread kindness, to put smiles on people's face, because that's what it's all about. We determine the meaning, right? There's a lot of things that are going to happen to us that we don't have control of, but we determine the meaning of how we react to what happens.
Always. How we respond is always a choice on our part, for sure.
Absolutely.
You referenced this and just want to touch on it a little bit more. The experience is the marketing. So whether it's a great experience or not, that is the story that people are going to tell out there. That becomes the marketing. And I have to just say, this morning it made me smile after I ordered, and they said, scoot on around, right? At Scooters. And
Yep.
even that small little scripting that your folks have learned can brighten your day when you think, yeah, scoot on around, and you can't help but smile. So I did experience what you talked about, and it's awesome. It makes my day. It positions me to whomever I might encounter, and so it plays forward. It certainly plays forward. I'm curious about if you, Troy, would give some advice to your younger self. What might that be? If you think about it today and you get to choose, what your younger self is, what might that be?
Well, I was very fortunate that I had great mentoring growing up. So a lot of the things that I considered to be common sense were actually things I was taught. And I didn't realize how fortunate I was to have that mentorship. So if you are somebody out there that doesn't necessarily get to have that mentorship in the home, I would encourage you to get employed places where you're going to get that mentorship. It's just so valuable to get the mentorship for free and get the paycheck for the work that you're doing for them. So that would be what I would tell people to really lean into. I know lots of times young people think they know it all and they're ready to do it on their own, but I would really tell them to embrace that mentorship. And if you think back to 200 years ago in this country, there'd be apprentices, right? So might be a blacksmith or whatever, and you learn from them, and then you'd be ready to take over that role someday. And I think we need to lean back into that a little bit to understand the schooling we get through high school and college. It's wonderful, but it really starts when you get into the workplace. And it's so important that you find those mentors. And I've been doing it 30 years now, and I've learned so much along the way. And to think about some of the things I know now, if I could have learned them maybe in the first 5 years, how much quicker my career could have accelerated. So that would be my advice to my younger self. And then if there was a B to the answer, it would be to make sure I'm networking. I just focused on working really hard and trying to become a great operator, but I forgot how important it was to expand my network, meet more people. I heard, I think it was Tony Robbins once say, the improvement that you're going to have in the next 5 years will come from the people you meet and the books you read. And at first I thought, oh, that's an interesting comment. And the longer I live, the more I'm like, absolutely, absolutely. It's critical that I already know what I know. What I don't know is what other people can tell me. And so it's to have the humility to ask people for help, to have the humility to call some people up. And I still do it. When we got into the Hawaiian Bros system, there was a gentleman here in Omaha who owns a bunch of Jimmy John's, and he's very good at the QSR space. And I just said, hey, can I buy you a cup of coffee and talk with you about how you do it? And in that 2 hours, what I learned from him, I should have had to pay $5,000 for it. But those are the things that you have to have the courage to do. And quite frankly, for someone out there that's looking for a mentor, you might hear a no. That's okay to keep asking people, because people are busy, and some of the best mentors have all kinds of people asking for their time, and time's not unlimited, so it can be difficult. But just keep trying and try to recognize when someone is trying to help you, to really open up and embrace that. Because I'll tell you, as a leader, when you're teaching people and you don't feel the response back, sometimes you wonder if it's worth your effort. But when someone opens up and says, man, I want to learn from you, you can create some very rewarding relationships.
That intrinsic reward, you almost get more yourself as someone who's played it forward. I totally agree. Very congruent in that spirit. I've invested in an executive coach my whole career. And sometimes it's formally and sometimes it's informal, as you said, with mentorship. And yet sometimes that mentorship can drift if there's not, an exchange. And so having that opportunity to invest in that, as you pointed out, common sense isn't so common. It comes from a place of learning and growing and being open to beyond the I know. I appreciate you saying that. Asking for help is a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness. And I don't know where we've missed that along the way, but sometimes we do. And I celebrate that with you, and would validate that that's key, that's important. What's in front of you right now? What are you trying to solve? What's your business challenge? What is the problem that you're looking for solutions? What's in front of you?
Well, there's a few of them right now. Inflation on our costs in our businesses is definitely a challenge, and we're having to be innovative and think differently. And earlier in this conversation, I talked about how what you did a decade ago doesn't work now. And when I was young, I was a little naive. I thought, man, once you figure it out, then you got a whole career of just getting it all right. And then you realize, no, the world changes like crazy, and you're going to have to keep adapting. And just because you had success last decade doesn't mean you'll have it the next one. So part of it for us is making sure we understand kind of what the workforce wants in a job, and how can we make our jobs more attractive, and how can we help people grow, because you can't do it without people. And so it's how do you find those people? How do you prove to them we're a place that you can grow in? Because they jump on Indeed, and there's lots of places they can go to work. There's lots of hotels, there's lots of coffee shops. So what sets us apart? And to me, it starts with our intention. Our intention is to have success and have everybody follow with us. And that's what we're going to keep trying to do. And some days it doesn't feel like you're making much progress in that regard, but you just have to have the faith that if you do the right thing and you do it every day, it compounds, and that eventually you'll change the trajectory of the company.
Beautiful. And building upon that momentum, as you said, right?
Yep.
That everyone wants to be on a winning team of some kind. And oftentimes we don't celebrate those successes and understand what worked well for us, because we want to make sure we do more of that, and then focus on, and to be even more effective, let's address what didn't work so well so we can learn from it. And shifting that so it's a learning organization, which sounds like that's the environment you have, versus, looking to blame of who's at fault for someone or for something. And that is a culture that you've created that will set you apart, because it's not out there in a lot of places and spaces these days, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, how do we find you? Again, you talked about your scooters, and you've got a growth plan, in the United States. Don't you have a national expansion plan?
Well, the brand certainly does. Yeah, we're a franchisee, and you mentioned earlier that scoot on around, and I just kind of wanted to share this little story because I think it's fun for people to see how this works. We had a team member from my team that was actually the one that coined that phrase, and he was just trying to market our business and do a better job, and so he started using lingo like that, and it's such a catchy thing, and it's such a fun thing for the customer that it started to kind of flow through the entire franchise system. And now it's become like a benchmark. Like that's what you say when people are driving through. So the reason I like to share that is because it was one person who thought that up, and then it expanded and it improved the brand. And so, there's no way to ever give him enough credit for coming up with that, but that's how brands are built and that's how companies grow. And so at Scooters Coffee, there's currently 760 some stores. That's probably, I don't know, 400 or 500 different owners, and they're our partners. And it's critical that all of us remember that when we're having success in Wisconsin and somebody else is having success in Iowa or Nebraska, it improves the entire brand. So it's just kind of humbling to realize that you're part of something that is not 100% up to you. It's up to this team of other business owners and other teammates. So um, that's part of the beauty of franchising that we found.
Beautiful. And consistent contributors, right, to
Yep.
participate. And
Yep.
so it doesn't get any better than that, having a great place to stay at hotels and get a good night's sleep and be comfortable, right? That's part of people doing life, and getting a good cup of coffee and starting their day.
Yep.
Great combination, great investment on your part.
Yes.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Troy, for spending some time with us. Your time
Thank
is
you.
valuable. Great wisdom and insight that you've shared. And so I'm sure that folks will appreciate and get some nuggets of insight and opportunity to apply it to their business as well.
Wonderful.
Thank you so
Great
much.
talking with you.